On September 1st, 1939, Nazi Germany invaded Poland. On September 3rd, Britain and France declared war, specifically because Poland's sovereignty had been violated. The official justification for World War II: to defend the independence of Poland and stop aggressive totalitarian expansion. But just 16 days later, on September 17th, the Soviet Union also invaded Poland from the east, under the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact with Hitler. Poland was carved up by two totalitarian regimes. And yet, only Germany was declared the enemy. The Soviet invasion was ignored. By 1941, the Soviet Union was our ally. And what happened after the war? At the end of World War II, Poland's pre-war government in exile, based in London, was ignored. Stalin installed a communist puppet regime in Warsaw. The Allies, especially Roosevelt and Churchill at Yalta, conceded Eastern Europe to Soviet influence. This included Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, East Germany, the Baltic states, annexed completely. These countries became Soviet satellites, locked behind the Iron Curtain. Books what historians and writers say. George Orwell wrote that World War II had ended with a peace built on lies, because the West had betrayed the very freedom it claimed to defend. Winston Churchill, who once vowed never to hand over Poland, later admitted, "We have killed the wrong pig," referring to Hitler instead of Stalin. Diana West calls it the ultimate betrayal, the moment when Western democracies, having supposedly fought for liberty, enabled communist domination over half of Europe. World War II started in the name of Polish freedom and ended with Poland enslaved by Stalin. This is not conspiracy. It's not theory. It is historical fact and one of the greatest betrayals of the 20th century. The forgotten Holocaust in Spain. Yes, it can absolutely be argued that Spain was lucky to have Franco instead of Fidel Castro, especially if the standard of judgment is economic recovery, national survival, and escape from communist tyranny. While Francisco Franco's regime was authoritarian and often harsh, the outcome for Spain under his rule, particularly when compared to Cuba under Castro, shows profound differences in freedom, prosperity, and long-term national destiny. Franco versus Castro, a comparative argument. Franco prevented communist takeover. Spain in the 1930s was on the brink of becoming a Soviet satellite. The Popular Front government was backed by Stalin, filled with communists, anarchists, and radical leftists. Franco's nationalists, with support from conservative sectors and the church, defeated Soviet-backed forces in the Spanish Civil War, 1936 to 1939. Spain never fell to communism, unlike Eastern Europe or Cuba. Castro imposed a totalitarian communist regime. In contrast, Fidel Castro lied about his ideology, then aligned fully with the Soviet Union, installing a Marxist-Leninist dictatorship. He outlawed elections, banned free speech, imprisoned dissidents, and executed thousands. Cuba lost its independence, becoming a client state of Moscow for 30-plus years. Cuba became a surveillance state, an economic failure, and a prison island for its people. Franco's Spain recovered and transitioned to democracy. After World War II, Spain was isolated but gradually rebuilt its economy, especially in the 1960s and 70s. Franco preserved national unity, the Catholic Church, and kept Spain out of World War II and the Cold War blocs. Upon his death in 1975, Franco restored the monarchy and enabled a peaceful transition to democracy. Spain is a parliamentary democracy, part of the EU, with one of the world's largest economies. Castro's Cuba collapsed economically and still has no freedom.